Hi guys, and welcome to your daily tarot reading for Monday the 23rd of September 2019. Thank you for joining me. I'm using the deck that I use in my personal readings today, which is the Radiant Rider-Waite deck. This deck, you can see it's a bit used. I've gone through a couple. It's the original Rider-Waite deck, but they've just updated the colors and they've made the borders better. You know, in the other deck, some of the borders are super thick and it just makes them seem more old school. So there are lots of variations on this deck out there. But if you're taking my course, which you can order on the website, which is super cheap, by the way, I've priced it at £17 because I want everyone to learn how to read this. This is the deck I would suggest you get, or the original Rider-Waite, because most other decks out there are based on this deck. So if you can read this deck, then you can read pretty much any other deck. And then you can do what I do here on the channel, which is pick a different deck every day and just read it without reading the instructions. It's such a great feeling. I'm not a big instruction label reader anyway, but it's nice when you don't need to. The only problem is when they change the suits around, you know, like instead of swords, they make it arrows or bows or whatever. So I like it when things are kept simple. Let's have a look at Monday, the 23rd of September. And I'm just tuning in and asking the cards what the energy of the day is about. So let's pull some cards. Ace of Swords in reverse. The Queen of Cups. And the Three of Wands. The Ace of Swords, when it's this way around, Ace cards. By the way, if this is the first one of my videos that you're watching, you're very welcome. I do these for every day for everyone who watches and for all signs of the zodiac. So if you're watching this applies to you as well. So when the Ace of Swords is this way around, it's a gift from the universe, and the universe says, here you go, here's a wonderful idea, like the patent for the toaster oven, you know, or a new invention, a new formula for a certain illness. It's an inspiration. It's the king of ideas. It's really something that's given to you by the universe to the extent where it's miraculous, because when you can take this idea and thought and when you can realize it, that's when you're really able to create something totally unique, original, and remarkable. The card is in reverse today. So instead of bringing in new ideas that fill you with this fire of creation and invention, instead it's pointing down at something that's already in your life. So the Ace of Swords in reverse is asking you to take a look at an aspect of your life and to see whether you can put a crown on it or whether it's really no good. I read a book by Susan Jeffers many years ago, and she had this really interesting message in there that in your life, it's really useful and wise to look at your life as having several boxes. So friendship box and romantic partner box and financial box, hobbies box, you know, the guy you go play tennis with, friend box, exercise, travel, a hobby. I may have repeated that, but it's important to kind of fill all of those blocks in your life, because if one block leaves, like let's say if one block is your children and they grow up and they leave to college and you've invested everything in that block and in none of the other blocks, and the kids leave, then you're left totally rudderless. You're like, what's my purpose now? Whereas if you keep things balanced, which is what we're all trying for. That's what we all try for, finding balance in life. We do that by spreading our interests around as much as possible and living as rich and as full a life as possible. And then when one box goes kablooey, then you're not as shocked because you still have all the other boxes, and then you can refill it. So today the energy is going to cause you to look at that box or that area of your life that isn't working so wonderfully. And luckily you have the Queen of Cups supporting you today and immediately pouring the soothing, healing, calming waters of this lake that she's got here, the Queen of Cups. So she immediately comes along and soothes your pain and eases your suffering, because she says, take care of yourself and don't be so hard on yourself, and don't say, oh my God, like this thing in my life fell apart, so I'm catastrophizing now, and because this went wrong, this is going to go wrong too, and then that's going to go wrong, and then basically the house is gone, the car is gone, the children are gone, and I'm out in the streets and in the gutter. That's catastrophizing, okay? So usually it's like, okay, hang on a minute, and the Queen of Cups is very good at doing that. She's like, let's not jump 50 steps ahead with your worries and your fears and your pain. Let's look at this problem first, and let's look at it as something that can be overcome. And you don't need to kill yourself in the process of overcoming this, okay? So lots of self-care, treat yourself right, exercise properly, sleep well, make sure if you're overdoing things. And what that allows you to do is it shows you where you need the most nurture and support in your life. So if all the boxes are full, but you're single and you desperately want a romantic relationship, then that box is going to be empty, okay? And you realize that, okay, I'm pretty happy with all the other aspects of my life, finance and children and career and fulfillment in my work and everything. This relationship stuff is really the only thing that's missing. You're able to realize that today, so you take a kind of step back, you understand where you need the most help, so where you're most vulnerable, and you can give yourself that help and support. And it's another example that when you give yourself that internal permission and that internal approval to say, okay, do you know what? I recognize this is an area within myself that's hurting. And I allow myself to take care of that in the best way I know how. And hopefully you've got good emotional coping skills that are constructive rather than destructive. And then you nurture yourself and you give yourself what you need. And it's through that you then move forward and go out into the world, and you actually get on a boat and travel to distant lands to find that missing piece of the puzzle, that missing box that you want to have filled and completed. And it's another kind of example of you can't criticize yourself into action. Oh, I'm such a loser because I've got all these boxes, but this one is still empty, so my life has been a complete failure. No, you've done 8 out of 9 things. Your life is wonderful. You just haven't managed to tick one of the boxes yet. And instead of catastrophizing and jumping to these huge judgmental conclusions, we're coming out of Virgo season, okay? The sun goes into Libra this week, and in the final days of Virgo, this like scratching at yourself, I don't know how I can explain it otherwise, this kind of nagging at yourself that you do, the kind of pecking at your head that Virgo sometimes causes you to do. I really feel that at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season, it's especially strong. So there may be a tendency for yourself to be a little bit harsh with yourself. I haven't achieved that. God, I suck. So thank goodness the Queen of Cups offsets that. She's like, no, you don't. You're just human like everyone else, and you haven't achieved that yet, I'm giving you all my love and all my support to not beat yourself up, so that soothes your soul, and then you're able to go, oh, I can relax about it, and I can now try again. And I can just go for it and follow my passion and my belief. And I'm not starting on a footing which is filled with fear and I'm afraid, and what if this is my last shot and my last attempt? No, you're just saying, okay, I love myself. What is it that I'm looking for right now? Okay, it's this, whatever it may be, work, money, love, romance, whatever. And you give yourself permission to go out into the world and to find that. And you're setting yourself up to really have great personal insight, because you're not being distracted by anything new. You're not being asked to reinvent the wheel, or slice bread. The Ace of Swords is in reverse, remember? So it pinpoints something about you that needs healing, and when you heal it, you can move on, and you can realize your hopes and dreams and passions, and your world becomes bigger and more fulfilling and successful. Ace is 1, Court card is 1 as well, so 1 and 1 and 2. And 3 is 5, and 5 is about freedom in numerology. So by following this recipe of today, you get emotional freedom, you get your own approval. It's like when you want a parent's approval. It can be so meaningful. It can be the difference between success or failure. Seriously, if we've all been in situations where we've tried something and it hasn't worked, and we needed the approval and help of our parents, if we're lucky enough to have parents, and where they've believed in us and stepped in and helped us and supported us, and it worked out in the end. But it wouldn't have just worked if no one intervened, no one gave a lending hand. Most of us you can't just make it on your own usually. Most of the time, you need someone who believes in you, or who just says, do you know what? I think you can do this, or give me a hug, or let's have coffee together. It's just realizing that you deserve the kindness that everyone else deserves, and that you won't have everything figured out same way no one else has it figured out, and that's part of the human condition. And because you give yourself that, you accept it, you allow yourself to move forward, rather than getting yourself out of this Virgo vice of self-criticism that opens up, and you're free to go in your happy, merry little way. So it's freedom emotionally and spiritually and everything, and kind of getting off your own back a little bit today. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. If you would like a personal reading with me, please go to my website. It's gregoryscott.com. Click on the readings tab to audio reading. I use the tarot, astrology, and numerology in my readings. So if you have any questions that you need answering, then please get in touch with me. I can answer any questions you may have about what's going on in your life now, what needs doing, what's coming up in future. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.